Parents, just want to say welcome to student ministry. We're excited that your kids are coming. We got an amazing team of leaders, and my heart is that you guys, within the next few weeks, be able to meet them. Next Tuesday, as you know, we have an open house here at Meadow Park. It's a chance for you between 6:30 and 7:30 to come and just check out the youth area, get better familiar with how to get there, what we have going on here. This is for parents, this is for the students as well, and a chance for you also in that time just to answer, ask any questions you might have, and us just to get to know you a little bit better. So as I said, we have some amazing leaders, and we've got about 28 leaders that are a part of student ministries at Meadow Park. And all of these leaders are involved in connecting with your kids. But there are specifically three guy D team leaders and three female D team leaders that really are the heart and soul of who will be connecting with your kids. We see D teams as really the heart of student ministries at Meadow Park. It's the number one thing we do. It's the number one thing we want kids to be a part of. If I was honest, I mean, again, well, let me just go through kind of what we think of when we think about this ministry and the number one thing. I say it's the number one thing, and the number one thing, we have three things that we focus on, and they really are the number one thing, even though they're three, but the number one thing is a knowledgeable faith. We want kids to come to having a faith in Jesus Christ, that they have their own personal faith. It's not just because mom and dad dragged me to church. It's not just because I've been going here since I was little, but they begin to really understand, and some of them already have, understand that Jesus is real, that Jesus loves them, that, you know, he came for them, he lived for them, he died for them, and he wants a relationship with them. And our prayer is that they would find that relationship. We pray that it's a faith that comes from the heart, but we pray that it's a faith that's supported by their head. For some kids, it's the head that, you know, they first have to really, this begins to make sense. And then we go, you know what, I'm willing to give my heart. For some, it's like, I'm giving my heart. I'm passionate about this. And we begin through D teams and some of that stuff, begin to unpack the why, you know, you can trust in this. Because at some point you begin to think with your head and go, is this really real? Is this something that really matters? And D teams, well, first of all, student ministry is a safe place for them to ask questions, safe place for them to doubt. We're okay with that. We want to walk through those things with them. They are entering this time of life when we are, I know there's sixth graders, but the years here are preparing them to leave, and parents, don't freak out by that. You got plenty of time with them still, but that's really what this time is about. How do we prepare these kids to move out and be successful and just adults who really hopefully know Jesus and who are living for him and have got a passion for life and are able to do that on their own outside of the family and all that. So knowledgeable faith, one of the number one things. The places where that happens, D teams, Ohio State Youth Convention, which has been canceled this year. You know, students being a part of worship. We know that this is a change, that up until now, Park kids, you guys on Sundays, there's a place for children to go, and parents, you go to the worship service. In youth, we really believe that students should be a part of worship. We want them to be a part of the worship with the whole church. We think that there's value in that, them learning to worship alongside adults, them learning to worship, period, what that looks like, what that means. So I think that's important. That's all a part of this knowledgeable faith. The healthy relationships, I believe, is the number one way that the number one thing, a knowledgeable faith, happens. I think most all of us, if we looked at our own personal faith, we would say there was somebody in our life that was key, or key people that were important in helping us to find that relationship with him, that knowledgeable faith with him. Our leaders are a key part of that. Other adults in the church are a key part of that. You as parents are a key part of that happening. And, you know, so these healthy relationships, they happen at different levels. You know, when we do a fun event like Cedar Point, it isn't just because we go, these kids don't have enough to do. It's not because we sit there and go, us as leaders have got nothing better to do with our weekends, because we believe that those relationships are so important. And things like Cedar Point, man, some kids, that's just where they're at. And it's just fun. We get to connect with them more. You ask them a lot of goofy questions in line, and we begin to get to know them a little more. Those relationships begin to build to where you can ask deeper questions and some of that. So the healthy relationships is the number one way I believe that we're able to point kids to the number one thing, which is that relationship with Jesus Christ. Personal conversations as well. Sometimes it's one-on-one. We realize that sometimes the D teams, that begins to unpack some questions, and in that thing, they begin to ask some other questions. And our heart is that they would, be able to maybe go further with those in a smaller setting. Sometimes it's right after D team, just hanging out a little while. Sometimes it's going, hey, let's get together for a Coke, or let's get together for a coffee, cheeseburger, whatever it is, and a taco. I'm telling you, some of the greatest conversations happen at Taco Bell. Don't rule out Taco Bell, one of the greatest places in the world. And so those personal conversations. As I said, parents, when I think of healthy relationships, you are the number one relationship. It's pointing kids to Jesus. That's through your life, your faith. We are not this period of time where you go, the kids are getting weird. They're a little odd now that they're sixth grade. You know what? I'm just going to give them to the youth ministry, let them take care of them, and we'll see you afterwards, when things get better and all that. Our hope is that this is a ministry where we're in a partnership, but beyond that you understand you are the number one youth leader in your kids' lives. You guys are the youth pastors. We see your kids for 3 hours on a given week. Sometimes in the summer we get them for a week, You guys are with them all the time. You guys are the number one youth leaders. And you know what? You're not going to believe this, but you are still the number one person that they look to. You're still the number one person influencing their lives. You may not think you are. You may think they want nothing to do with you. You're still number one. Time and time again, we find this with our kids. I keep thinking maybe it's going to change as time goes on. Still number one. Don't rule out your position. Find ways to, to let them. I think the church is key. Parents, I think that right now in these sixth grade years, encouraging your kids, forcing your kids, mandating, bribing, whatever you can do to get your kids connected to church, getting connected to the ministry in these years is huge, because they begin to build those relationships. And then they get in these earlier years, it's a lot easier as it gets older, if they've got those relationships, to stay connected to church. But parents, you're key in helping to make that happen. Again, we aren't sitting here going, we want to do this apart from you, but we know we want to work together, and you guys are key in that happening. Life application. It's the number one thing that we see. When we think about it, the number one thing is a relationship with Jesus Christ, and the number one way that happens is with healthy relationships with other adults, parents, with other students. The number one reason is we want there to be life application, that this applies to their life, that their faith in Jesus isn't just this thing that they come to on Sunday for 3 hours, they leave and they go, yeah, that was fun. And then there's this student that impact of Jesus in their life doesn't matter at all. Life application, that's the number one thing. We don't want to just be people who say we're Christians. We want us to be little representations of Jesus in the world. If Jesus is passionate about certain things, if the poor break his heart, if people who are in pain break his heart, if injustice breaks God's heart, we want it to break our heart. We want there to be life application. What would Jesus do in this situation? Where would he be going? Right now in this time of COVID, it's like, yeah, where is Jesus wanting me to be in this time? What is it that he wants me to do? I don't believe he wants us just to, even if you're staying home, even if you're being careful, extra careful, however you are looking at this COVID thing, I still believe there's ways that you can be an impact on other people. Maybe that's writing letters to some of the shut-ins in the church, or older people who can't get out. They're missing their friends. There's a lot of ways that our lives can have application and impact the kingdom. And so a lot of ways that happens, as I think about the ministries where knowledgeable faith, life application, and healthy relationships all happens best, D teams is always the number one thing. I think that it hits every single thing when I think about it. I should have said this earlier with the healthy relationships, but other places where I see that happening, like I said, D teams, Ohio State Youth Convention, even like a trip to Cedar Point on the one-on-ones. But as I think about life application, it's still D teams coming together and hopefully being challenged to go out together and serve, and to think about being challenged as we go out on our own in a week. How am I going to live this out in my life? You know, every summer we do a week-long missions trip, and the goal of those is to get us out of our comfort zone. Deeper relationships happen in those, and kids are challenged in new ways outside of their comfort zone to have life application of their faith. You know, on their own. I believe that on their own is something that as they leave here, I hope that there's life application, is that as they're in school and those relationships and the things they're a part of, that they understand, I am Jesus in this place. I want to be loving people, caring about people, passionate about things that he's passionate about. And so, yeah, so that's when I think about our three things. That's the number one thing, knowledgeable faith. Number one thing we're trying to do. Number one way it happens is healthy relationships. And the number one reason we see that happen is we want there to be life application, that it applies to their life and it matters to them. So, and that we are representatives of Jesus in this world, because I believe that loving people the way he does is a way that transforms this world in amazing things. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Hey, just want to let you know real quick, when we think about D teams, that's what's starting on the 30th of this month. We are going to have both in person, and we're going to have online. And so either way, whichever one you're comfortable with, we'd love to have you a part of it. If you are comfortable, if it's okay, we're going to do everything we can. Social distance, masks, keeping people separate. We're entering the back field from different sides of the building based on middle school and high school. Since you're middle school, you guys will go to the east side of the church, go to the back field, and you'll come on the field from there. Students will be given a temperature check as soon as they get here. Parents, we encourage you to be on top of that as well. If they're sick, just don't even bother. But any sort of fever, check that stuff. We're going to have sanitizing stations. When they are mobile in the back, outside, they are to wear masks at all times. When we get into their small groups out there, as they're spaced 6 feet apart, they can take the mask off in the D team time. But as soon as we move, masks back on. And when the weather changes and it causes us to come inside, masks on all time. We're entering the building at 2 different doors, just so we're spreading out however many of us there are. We're opening up different rooms. We're going to do rooms differently this year. Normally students have a set D team room. This year it'll be based on your numbers. So if a normal D team group is having like 3 or 4, we got rooms that are for smaller groups. We'll have them in there. Again, they're still 6 feet apart, but in those rooms. If it's a bigger group, we have 8 to 10. We have bigger rooms that have got more ability for them to space out. They'll go to that room on that night. We'll constantly be evaluating that. Leaving the building, we normally have a lot of hanging out, a lot of time just spending time together. It's going to be less of that. I hate that. Relationships is so key to this, but we feel like this is important for us doing this. And again, if you choose the online, there will always be the online option. There will be a Zoom address that's sent out each week that you can click on that at the time and join the group from that D team. We're going to try initially to have you students join your D team. If we find that that's just too awkward with the outdoors and just technology and stuff like that, we will have virtual D teams that we start probably the second week, which actually is the weekend after Labor Day. We'll go 1 week, 30th. We'll be off for Labor Day weekend, then we'll be back. And if, again, the technology just hasn't worked out, we will have kids get on to separate virtual D teams that will have leaders leading, and will just be for those students that are middle school, high school, guys, girls. And so basically 4 groups that would be meeting that would be for virtual. So again, we want you to know, we want you to be a part of it. And every month on the 4th Sunday of the month, those D team nights, we're not going to meet at the church. We're going to be meeting, and we're going to do some off-site activities. Again, groups will be, you'll find out where you're going. Sometimes it will be in person at somewhere. Maybe we're going to someone's house where we can have a bonfire outside. Again, students separated 6 feet and more apart. But also, sometimes it will be different challenges that we're going to maybe do virtually online, everybody from their own home, and some different things like that. But different ways that we can connect and continue to build those relationships. Hey, we're excited you're a part of this. We really hope that next Tuesday you're going to come and be a part of the open house, 6:30 to 7:30 here at the church. Just drop in for 5 minutes, even if that's all you can do. We'd love to see you. It's going to be a great time and a great night. So we're just excited about and I'm making sure I'm not like somehow missing somebody here. Okay. Making sure you really didn't, none of you show up. It's fine. I understand. It's a weird time. I understand people are zoomed out. Hey, the sun's outside. The sooner I get done, the more I'm going to go outside and spend time there. So I get it. Can't wait for you to meet our leaders. Again, there are 3 guy D-team leaders. There are 3 female D-team leaders. Hopefully some of them will be here next Tuesday. But we'll have different chances for you to meet them, and I'm excited for you to connect with them. So, hey, parents, awesome. If I have met you before, I look forward to us just getting to know each other more. If we've not met yet, I can't wait to meet you. I'm always available. Give me a call, email me questions you got, any concerns, or just things maybe and thinking about how do I, maybe your student is going, I'm not sure I'm ready to do this, ways we can help you. But like I said, stalk them, bribe them, whatever you got to do, force them, whatever you got to do. The more they can get involved, whether it's online or here in person, either way, the more they can get involved early on, the better. So we really hope we get to know your kids, and excited for what this year is going to be. It's going to be different, but I still believe God can use it, and it's going to be a great year. So parents, thank you so much. Look forward to meeting each of you, and I hope I'll see you Tuesday at the open house.